There were several questions that were already submitted, and so we're going to try to kind of divide some of those up. We want to make this as informative and helpful to the staff there. So please, at any time, ask a question. Stop us. Don't wait till we're at the end. Just go ahead and make sure that we understand exactly what is being inquired and wanting to know with those particular pieces there. Kind of explain a little bit about our team first, and then we'll kind of dive into your talking points. We do have System MMS Administrator. That's Tommy Cottle. Tommy is not with us today. He is enjoying spending some time with his family, and so but Tommy is kind of all things IS resources with MMS. Tommy's been with us, I'm going to say close to almost 3 years. Tommy was involved from the very beginning, but as far as kind of being on the dedicated team, when Suzette Kemker kind of moved over to Movers about 2.5 years ago, Tommy came over and he takes care of all, again, kind of that really dealing with anything we work with on with our contractor. We have to date 3 developers. Our team, as far as the contract side, has changed quite a bit over the years. When we initially built MMS back in 2020, we had a team at sometimes as many as maybe 13 or 14 as far as actual developers and all kinds of pieces there. But today we're down to a team of 3, and there are 3 developers. Then we have a kind of a part-time business analyst that also helps us out. We work directly with IS. Everything that we do has to go through their same kind of process. There's a cost benefit analysis and all that. So Tommy, it's Tommy's world. Sheree Menendorf is on the call here. Sheree will be sharing a lot of information today. She is our main contact when it comes to the MMS help desk. Again, we put that information out there. Anyone can call us. The way that it works is when you call the number, the help desk number, the 573-522-5225, it will ring to Sheree's number. It's either twice or 3 times right in there. And then if she's on the call with someone, then it immediately hits the rest of the dedicated team. We've used that technology probably the last 1.5 to 2 years. We find that to be really helpful to make sure that we're responsive and catching anyone. So you could be intending to call help desk, think you're going to talk to Sheree, and you actually end up with one of the rest of us. Dawn Miller is in the Northeast District. She's a payment specialist up there. Dawn has been helping us last couple of years in that help desk when she can. Been a great resource. Dawn was a part of the process as we went through testing. She was in a Hannibal maintenance building, helped us do a lot of implementation there. So very knowledgeable of just, what goes on really there in the field. Randall Ipock is also one of our dedicated team members. Randall's been with us throughout the duration. Came onto the team now, as far as dedicated to us, I think, again, about almost 4 years now. Not too long after we went to implementation, he became a part of the main team, and he's got almost 23, 24 years of experience in maintenance, so really kind of understands the nuts and bolts behind the thing. Deals a lot with our data, has done a lot with our Power BIs. That's some of your questions that you have, helping us understand what does the information tell us, what does it gather, what does that look like. My role, I am the MMS project director. So kind of what do we do day to day? What are we going to be doing the next couple months? Where are we going the next 1.5 years? Spent a lot of time answering questions. Many of you on the call here, I've helped provide information back, whether that's with CCO, audits and investigations, helping with, again, executive team answers, what's information we have there. So those are kind of, our roles. At the end of the day, really we've taken the direction that whatever it takes to make sure the system is successful to our users, that's our highest priority. And we take that pretty seriously, whatever that means in winter operations. All 4 or 5 of us could easily be doing nothing but just answering phone calls. What is that the most important thing to do and represent the information we have. MoDOT is right at about 5,000 employees using the system, and Shree's going to get into this a little bit more. Who are the people using it? We've got right at about 2,800, 2,900 daily users every single day putting their documentation, labor, equipment, materials, what they're doing into MMS, plan their work, document their work. So pretty substantial piece there. And of course, we went from a name change from what was a maintenance management to a MoDOT management system. So I'm going to kind of stop again. If you guys got any questions, please let us know. I'm going to turn it over to Shri. She's going to do a little bit more of a overview of MMS. We kind of split up a few things here. We'll kind of jump back and forth if we miss something. But again, thank you for letting us have a chance to be with you all today. Shri, turn off to you.
Thanks, Michael. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here, and I'm going to get to where we can open MMS. So for those of you who are not familiar with MMS, it is on our MoDOT SharePoint site, our home page. And if you go over here to the right-hand side, you'll see that we have our MMS button. And when you click that, that'll open it up to what we see on our screen here. We do also have a playground that we have new users that will go in and maybe practice on documenting their work and things like that. And that's our test environment. We call it kind of that playground where they can't mess anything up, but it gives them an opportunity to be able to practice on documenting, as we have some things that we do in MMS that can be a little complicated if you're doing several different activities, crossing a midnight, things like that. So with this, I want to share that we also, as a dedicated team, and then several within MoDOT out in the districts, we're able to impersonate users. And by impersonating them, we can go in as them and be able to assist them with their needs. We also have our help button, and whenever we click this help button, this will take us to our SharePoint page that we have, where you can click on MMS and it will open up to MMS. We have MMS questions, and that is mainly a format of an area here that kind of, what are they doing? What are they having problems with? And it's just a document that kind of gives them some different scenarios. Then we also have our user guides, but that's something that most people like to see videos instead of reading through. Very often, but we did use it in the very beginning before we started doing our MMS videos. But we find that our MMS videos are the prime training tool that our districts use out in the fields. And we have a whole list of different videos that are out here. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and go back to my MMS home, and we're going to just kind of go through some of these modules here. And just so you can kind of see, and at any time you can come out here and take a look. You may not have all the buttons that you see on my screen. Yours may be limited, but I do want to show you what our users are doing. They're going to be documenting their work, and when they're documenting their work, they're usually having a supervisor, crew leader that will assign work. That is just planned work for the day. It sets it up for when they go to document their work in MMS, that it already provides that activity, and then they just document through putting their activity, their equipment, their labor hours, materials, those kinds of things. So all the information that is in MMS is what users are putting in, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to impersonate an employee here, and I'm going to go to Luke. Find Luke here. So what Luke is seeing is that he's able to document, he's able to assign and do assignments, but he's able to document. And when we document a day, then what you're going to be able to see is that they're documenting their time, they're documenting their labor hours, any add hours, and if it's a shift differential. Then they're also going to document um, their equipment, and so they can put in their equipment. And what that screen looks like whenever they document their equipment, it allows them to pick up whatever geotab has in it or GPS, and it has those beginning and ending miles and then their usage miles. And so they confirm all that. And then as they click on through for whatever activity they're doing, then they can pick their location. And this is something that I think that when we get down to it, this is an area that you're going to be interested in our results of where people are working. What activity were they doing? Where did they work? What part of the roadway did they work on? That kind of thing. So they document by using this map. In this case, he was able to select just his building, but if he was on a route, he would be able to select an entire route, or he would be able to pick a specific location with just one click. So with that then, if he would have had any materials, we would be able to document materials for that activity. And then we have our summary page. So we're able to see that, hey, we had 2 people doing the same exact thing, and they were probably checking roads or something like that, and they have documented their day. So this is what supervisors and employees are seeing as they have documented their day. As you can see, some of these things we can export out to Excel, so we have that ability. I'm going to go ahead and click done. And so now we can see for Luke that if we go to review and submit, this is what is being sent to, let me go to a day here. This is what is being sent to TRS. So MMS takes the information that is entered by employees and it gets sent to TRS on a daily basis. It could be on a weekly basis, but by every pay period, by like today, TRS cutoff, we need to make sure that everyone's time has been documented in MMS and has been sent to TRS. The information that is submitted on this page then, the materials, the performance, any fleet, those all go into SAM2. So we're communicating with SAM2 and it goes through that nightly cycle. The labor hours and the job number, they are all going to TRS. And then that goes into SAM2 with an interface as well. So then what we're able to do is not just see through results when we get there what has been documented in MMS, but we also see what the legal record is of SAM2. Okay, so I think one of the questions that come up is how accurate is MMS? Well, MMS is only as accurate as the data that's been put in. There are times that mistakes have been made on these pages. It does cost us developer time if we have something changed in here. If it is not a federalized activity where we're asking Federal Highway to reimburse us for an activity that has been federalized for that year, the majority of the time we just ask them to please make sure that it gets changed in SAM2 or through TRS, which then would interface with SAM2. But those are the only times that we really would have a change unless it's a significant dollar amount that we want to make sure gets entered into the correct activity. So whenever we're running reports and things like that, getting data, providing information to executive team or our tracker measures, then we would want to have our developers make that correction in MMS. But for the legal purposes, we want to stay with what has been reported in SAM2. Okay, so with MMS then, to me, for what your purposes are, and what we've helped with audits and investigations in CCO is that this is kind of a starting point. This is an area where we can kind of start and get an idea of information that's been put into MMS. So then we can really start honing in on it when it comes to Cognos reports. So this is what the supervisor looks at and they submit. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go to work plans. Work plans is an area where this is exactly what it is. We plan our work. The feds require us to do work plans for work that we're going to do for that calendar year. So our districts, they work on this area starting usually around in October, and we like to have all that done through December to have what do we plan to do that year and then future years as well. So we'll have further discussions about that. If there's an interest in wanting to know about what's been planned versus what we've done. Then we have our budget module, and we'll cover that too. Budget module, it comes from BRASS, and you can see that if I was to look at a particular activity, I would be able to bring in my information. We'll be able to bring in the budget information. We can export it out to Excel. They can export it out to a PDF, which then allows us to print any information. But it's very much of what we see already that the districts see in how they're spending their money, what activities, those kinds of things. Okay. So I'm going to go back to home here. My area is probably a module that you're going to find useful as you may be looking for a particular location. We can use this search to kind of look for a route. We can look for a building name. If you have a job number or even a bridge number, you can type that in and it would bring it right in for you. Then we also have that we have our routes, what's federal aid routes, what the conditions are, striping, job numbers, who owns it, if there's any maintenance agreements. We also have our bridge information here. And as we scroll on down, let me go ahead and get this back up here. We also have information about work zones that you might find helpful. We have an area for our signs, what's insufficient, what are priority one signs, and then our date of inspection. So all of this information is out here, just at and everyone has this access to see this. We have what's been STIP approved, and then maintenance operations, what we have through our maintenance dollars. And then we also have any call reports. So if someone is called in, especially in our St. Louis area, seems to get hit pretty hard, and they have designated crews that manage these. We have where call reports are listed out here. And if I wanted to click on to see if there's any new or pending, scheduled, or completed, I can do that and I can see what's out there, and then be able to click on that, that information. So with that, I wanted to show you that whenever we light up what our federal aid route is, then this map is going to be color coded accordingly. So you would be able to see what is our federal aid routes and what isn't. And so then you would be able to see on the map. It'll sometimes take a little bit. But you can see all the routes and then you can zoom in if you know those locations. So that's what all of these buttons are for, is just to be able to narrow in maybe a search that you're doing. The next module that we have that we'll go into further detail about is our fleet. And our fleet module it has what the fleet status is, and I believe that was also some questions. What does it contain and that kind of thing? It does have all of our fleet and non-fleet. So when users document their fleet that they're using, they're able to document, and they're also able to take a look to see how many are down, how many are available. We use this a lot for winter operations for our trucks. It also has our non-fleet information out here. If the piece of equipment is not assigned to that building, they're able to do a search when they're documenting, and it will bring that in. This also can be a report that can be created, and then you can also print as it exports into a PDF and Excel. It also provides pictures for us as well, and we can see what that piece of equipment looks like. We can also put in a service request if we so need to do so for the buildings. Our results, I'll come back to that in just a minute. That's going to be where we gather everything that has been put into MMS, we're able to pull back out through results. Our consumable inventory. This is what materials are in our inventory. It is not anything that, such as our signal and lighting crews, they don't put a lot of stuff into inventory because they use it as they purchase kind of things, or they buy in bulk, but they keep it off to the side. And so with that, then they put those expenses out in other expenses, but they're not going to find it here in this consumable inventory. This too is something that we're able to do reports on. We're able to export it out to Excel and to a PDF. We're able to also find inventory usage. So if I look at my inventory usage, I'm able to identify that for the month of July, let's just take a peek here. For the month of July, say that I want to know what materials I've used. I can select all, and it would bring in all of it, or I can also just use my aggregates as well and see what I have listed for the materials. Doesn't look like there's any listed on there. Let's go ahead and select all. And now what we can do is we can see what's been interfaced to SAM2. So as I mentioned on our materials, it does interface to SAM2 directly. There's others that may say, you know, the status is that it's still in MMS. When it says that it's still in MMS, it means that it has not done the overnight cycle or been submitted, but the material has been used for the activity that was recorded. I'm going to go back out to home. And then we're going to touch base on our ladder license leave and what this means, and we'll touch base on that in a little while. But what we did, this was our latest module that we've come out with, and this we've worked with the career ladders. This just pertains to our maintenance employees and bridge maintenance employees, where we can have what their career ladder is, what their next steps are, and it goes through a flow process in that. When it says in progress, you may see some that would say completed, those kinds of things. So this is a new module that we've come up with that we have, that HR is a made player in this, along with the supervisor. It streamlines the process a lot more, where we're doing all of this electronically versus it all being in paper. So I'm going to go ahead and go back out here, and I'm going to go to license and training. This is our driver's license that we bring in from DOR. We also have our professional licenses, which may be the herbicide. It may be that there's PEs and things like that. So there's professional licenses that fall in here. And then we have our training courses, which is in the new movers now. And that information has been brought over and now is being used in the license and training. So as you know, our license and training really plays a major role in our safety management. And we'll cover on reports in just a little bit, but I want to go to our safety management and we'll be covering this as well. But on our safety management, we'll be discussing this module more in depth. So is there any questions at all in regards to the different modules that we have? Maybe what you're seeing versus what you're seeing on my screen? Any questions so far? Okay, let me touch base on making sure that I've covered what I wanted to cover. Oh, where does the information come from? So we have the employees and there's 194 maintenance buildings. So wanted to make sure that you all were aware that, you know, there's a lot of maintenance buildings that are putting data into MMS for documenting work. The information also comes from TMS, so the road and bridge information, any signal and lighting, those all have job numbers, striping inventories. It brings in our pavement condition that is in TMS. As you saw with the mapping, we have the Esri maps that we use, and then it also has the linear referencing system, the LRS system that comes from TMS, and then STIP info, and then we also have our fleet images that are contained in MMS for them to view. When it comes to SAM2, as you saw, we have the career ladder information, we have HR, financial, we get our procurement information from there. When it comes to our consumable inventory, our budget information, which is coming from BRASS, and then we also have our payroll data. When it comes to our fleet, we're using the faster system as of right now, but I do know that there is a new faster system that will be coming out, but it's not called faster. But we're in the works with them. So then whenever that new system is ready to go, then we'll incorporate that into MMS. We have geo tabs, so then we're able to find, especially during winter operations, where trucks are, where we're going. You know, the little key fobs that you have when you use a state vehicle, all of that is data that is kept into geo tab. And so we're getting all of this information that we're able to see in MMS, and it connects to the geo tab system. Risk Master, that's going to be our workers' compensation, safety incidents, any of that stuff that we see on our safety page. We also get information from Risk Master. And then, of course, our training records, which recently moved to Movers Learn. And I did mention that how accurate is our information, and then the reports, and we'll cover reports. As I mentioned and showed you that we could get consumable inventory reports, we can run some fleet reports. I'm going to go back to results and kind of show you results and what that looks like. We can also run reports for our training records, and when I say training records, a lot of that is handled by HR and safety management group. And then we're going to discuss Power BI, which I know is of great interest to you. So let me go back, and I'm going to go back to MMS, and I want to show you results. And in results, this is a module that everyone is able to access and look at. For me, I want to change my area. If I wanted to look at the whole entire state, I can change my area and I can select and do a drop down by a district, a superintendent area, or a particular org. Right now, I am looking at just Fulton. Okay, it already puts in the date range for me, but I can change my date range. I can also set up a seasonal activity as well. And then I can also select whatever activities I do want to look at. I can also select by job, project, or property damage number. And this is what you all a lot of times will utilize when it comes to that. Maybe you have the location and you have a job number and you know where it is. You can do a search and narrow that down, or you can select all, and then you would be able to bring in all of that, or you can select from the map if you know that information. And so then it would bring in my map, and I can see right now the work or the location. So now I can click on a section and it will bring me in what my job number is. If I click on that, I could click select, and now I could submit and it would bring in whatever work was done on that location. So now I'm looking at just that particular route for this date range. So if I wanted to change the date range, this is where I would do that. So then if I wanted to know how often, maybe it's a signal, how often at that signal I'm always going to, or how often I'm always working on that roadway, or maybe you have a lot of accidents in that location that you're wanting to look at, you can then change your dates for a range, okay? So what this is telling me now is that it's showing me location using the map, giving me what my estimated costs are. So I can see that in labor, I've done $169, and then I can see too the labor hours and the equipment used. In addition to that, what I can also see is that I can have the ability to export this out to an Excel. And if I export that out to Excel, it's going to put it into an Excel format that's going to provide the labor, the equipment, the materials, and the PAs if there were any. So we can see that we mowed in this area, and as we scroll on over, it's going to tell us the activity date and the shoulder miles that were covered. So say that, rock chip or something like that. You would be able to see, yes, we were mowing at that time. And then we have our labor hours. So this kind of gives you an area to start with that you can get the information, get even a date that we were out there, that kind of thing. Okay. And then I have the ability, because it's an Excel, I can manipulate the data and print it as I need to. So with that, I'm going to go ahead, and you can see that I can also print from this page. If I want to change this up a little bit, say that I want to choose a different activity. When I select activity, I can go to any kind of activity. I can go to a drainage area. I can go to pavement. Maybe there was some asphalt pavement work that was done. I would be able to then select that particular activity and then go to that same format with all my information that's on here. Only this time it also shows me the performance and where I'm at with the rest of the state and whether information has been documented. And then you can also see the total estimated cost. So with this, I'm say that I want to change my date range. When you come to this page, if you don't want this week, hit clear, and then we're going to customize it. So say that there's been stuff going on, and I'm going to go all the way we'll go to July 31st. And I'm just looking at everything that is for 312 for Fulton area. Now I can zoom in and I can see the areas that work was performed during that time frame. So say that there is there we go, that I'm interested in this one particular location, I can go ahead and now bring in what that job number is for this date range, and it gives me all my information. The other thing that I can do is I can just go ahead and export this out. And when I export this out, I can either export it for everything that was in that location. And so then you can see that, okay, well, I'm interested in just business 54. I can come up here and you can treat this just like any other report. And I can filter. And as I filter, if I just want to filter in here and I just want business 54, I can just bring in all the work that we've done on business 54 and what that it was all asphalt pavement repair because that's the activity that I selected. Gives me the date that I did all the work. And it also gives me the job numbers. So then I'm able to go to Cognos and run for these job numbers. And a lot of times in Cognos, if you just run it by the WRCW054, it's going to bring in all the job numbers pertaining to 54. So you want to kind of be specific on listing each job number so you're getting just those specific locations. It's also going to give me my equipment, my materials, and my performance on that. Okay. Any questions at all about results and what, how to use it, what we're pulling in? Maybe, you know, if you're dealing with property damage, we can do by property damage numbers, those kinds of things. Any questions about that and how to work this information? Now keep in mind, this is only information that has been put into MMS. And so what you'll want to do is then use this as a starting point and then start doing rest of your search, whether it be through Cognos or whether you work with those other divisions to gather the data that you're looking for. Okay. Well, if there's no other questions, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Randall. And Randall's going to cover the MMS safety module more in detail and what that information contains. Randall, it's all yours.
Sounds good. Good morning, everybody. So we'll change gears a little bit and look at a little bit of safety. So safety management module wasn't really in the original scope, but exec team came to us a couple years ago and said, hey, we would like to have a place that contains all of the safety information, kind of a one-stop shop for what's the safety scores, how well are we doing on safety. So this safety management module is what we ended up coming up with. So I'm logged in as Ray Thomas, which is a supervisor at one of the maintenance buildings in Southeast District. And like Sheree said, we're able to impersonate different people. I'm going to skip around on these a little bit because some of them are just links, and I'll show you those first, and then we'll go in depth on some of the other modules. So report an incident, that will go in depth on that. The RBA, the risk-based assessment, is really, it's just a link to all of the RBAs that safety management has. Everybody can access all of those different RBAs. When they assign work in MMS, like Sheree was showing earlier, their RBAs are linked directly to the specific RBA for that activity. So if they assign R312, there's an RBA on that assignment that's linked to this R312 RBA. They don't have to go in and look that specific one up. So that's pretty handy. This link contains all of them. So if there's one that they don't have linked, that they can go look for it. Same thing with the work zones. This takes us to another landing page that will take you to the typical applications, which is really just a link to the EPG. The ADT map, especially for figuring out which TA they need, it's another link there. And then work zone inspection, if somebody's doing a work zone inspection, this is just a link to that Power app. If I go back, safety dashboards, we'll talk about that and observations a little bit more. Safety videos, these are videos that safety or risk management has, and that contains their videos. License and training, that takes you to that module within MMS. The boot and eyewear, this is that app that was built for safety management. So it's a link to that, and it's whatever access that person has. So a supervisor can see, I believe they can see everybody in their org, but it uses the permissions that are within that app itself. And then the same thing with safety documents. That's just a link to safety management's safety document page. So now for some of these other ones where we actually enter stuff. So I'm going to stay logged in as Ray here. And I want to show you when we click on the report an incident, which, by the way, report an incident is for every employee at MoDOT. Whether you document your time in MMS or not, it doesn't matter. So if a HR employee is out of central office has an incident, they report it in MMS this very way. So logged in as him, I want to show you when we click create a report, impersonation is not allowed for this. So within this create a report, an employee fills out all of their information, gives their statement, and then certifies that that statement's accurate and true and everything. That has to be done by that employee. We cannot impersonate them and do that. So there's a few different places within the safety module that we specifically did that, because we don't want to even have the ability to say what an employee said. That has to come from them specifically. So I just want to make sure that everybody understood that. When you do the creator report, it is going to take you out to a landing page and start asking a bunch of questions. It starts with, what are you? And let me just go ahead and show you. We'll create one here and hopefully cancel it. So I'm back in as me now. And when I create a report, it allows you to select the date and time and everything of when that incident happened. And then it knows everything about all your personal information, as far as when you started, years of service at MoDOT, all that kind of stuff is filled out for the employee. So they just start filling this out. When did I start? What's my contact information? And when they click next, it's going to take you to, I'm not going to go ahead through the whole process because it'll create a report, but it takes you to the location page, and then they select where it was that the incident happened. If it's on a roadway, they can select that. If it's construction and they're out in the middle of a field somewhere on a project, they can select that, and it brings in GPS coordinates. After they put in the location, then they start getting into the details of the incident. What happened? What was the activity you were doing? All that kind of stuff. Based on the answers that they give. So one of the questions is, was there an injury? And if they click yes, there was an injury, it's going to open up another tab and they start filling out information on the injury itself. Once that process is complete, they certify that it's everything is correct. They submit it, and it goes on to the next person. It goes to the supervisor, which takes us to this grid. These are all of the incidents that have been entered. And what happens is, once an employee submits that, it goes to the supervisor for the first level of review. The supervisor then goes in, reviews all of it, certifies that it's correct and everything's good, and puts in their statement, certifies their statement, submits it, and it goes to the level 2 supervisor, which typically in the maintenance world is the superintendent, but whoever in the EID is the next level of supervisor it goes. It eventually ends up at the hands of the DSHMs. They do their process, determine what needs to be done, if anything, save it, and the process is complete. So it's really is a pretty automated system that takes you through and answers the questions based on what happened. And if there's a piece of equipment involved, then it starts asking more questions about the equipment. This was all built with a lot of help from district safety and health, safety management. All of those people were involved to figure out what questions do we really need to ask and what information do we need. Once all that's done, safety and management our safety management staff ends up putting it into Risk Master, and they go through their process with workers' comp or whatever needs to be done. We'll go back. So there's a map that shows where all the incidences have occurred. You can select a year, you can select whatever kind of incident you want. So if you want to know what the backing incidents are, you can just select backing, refresh the map, and this is going to tell you exactly where those incidents occurred. As you zoom in, it starts getting more specific. So you can see this dot comes up. That right there is where that backing incident actually took place. So a lot of good visual information there. Really, we're pretty proud of this whole process. It was a lot of work went into it, and to make sure that all the data that was needed and required is there, and yet all of the rules about who can see what to keep everybody's privacy and everything. So that is how a person submits an incident. So that's a pretty big piece. Is there any questions, or do you want to go into more detail on an incident? All right, this is a quiet group right here. Safety observations, let's go there next. So that's part of the safety score, is that employees can get, they're called bonus points for safety observations. This all came from the previous safety program that we had, behavior-based safety. We kind of kept those, MoDOT kept those and are using them. Observations, good catches, and near misses are what they're called, the three categories. You can click on the little information button and give a good example of what that means. The one thing I wanted to show you on this is if they select this and fill out an observation or a near miss, they fill out all the information, just like everything else in MMS. It knows who you are and what org you work for. They can fill all that out, and if they choose, they can submit anonymously. So if an employee has a fear of, I'm going to get in trouble for filling out this observation or for what I found or whatever, they can submit that without having their name or org part of it. So it can be anonymous. If they do that, they don't get credit and the bonus points, but sometimes they choose to do that. So that's just an option that they have. And then the last thing is the safety dashboards. So depending on what your security level is in MMS, you see different things. So I'll show you real quickly what I see as a statewide administrator. I see basically numbers for the entire state. So this is scores for every org in the state. The recordables is kind of a different chart, and all these are statewide data. So real quickly, I'm going to go back and log in as a supervisor and show you exactly what a supervisor would see. Okay, so I'm back to that supervisor at Winona here. And when he goes into the safety dashboards, he's going to log in and he really is going to see the Winona facility information. Now, they can see other orgs within their district of what their overall score is, but when they hover over it, all they see is the overall score. This score this Winona facility here, they can tell it's theirs because of that number 96 at the top. When they hover over that, now that gives them the breakdown of each individual score and why or how their score is arrived at. So notice this accountability score of 20. That's really the one that caused us to limit that, because that's if somebody has had a written warning or above based on a safety incident. So for those orgs that only have a few people, it's kind of easy to figure that out. So we've limited that to that's only that supervisor at that org can see this. The safety score, these are what things are taken into account to come up with their score. 5% is recordables, 5% vehicle, 20% accountability, so on and so forth. This 10% bonus points, those are those observations that I just showed you a few minutes ago. The black line at the top, that is really what the goal is to have everybody at that 90% or higher. Once they get down here, you can see they start dropping off to yellow and red based on their score. Rate of recordables, this is all figured by number of hours worked at that org. The days and months, this is where, so Tuesday for this org is the day that has the most number of incidents, percent totals, and then January, February, and May have had the most incidents. The slips, trips, and falls, backing, and sprains and strains, those are 3 that safety management wanted to focus on. So if they would have one of those type of incidents, the number would change and the little icon changes. The years of service, so this is going to tell you, so there was one incident at this org, so 100% of the incidents was for that age group or that years of service, and that's greater than 10 years. So, and this last percentage is the number of employees at that org that fit in that category. Percent of incidents in a work zone. This is the required training percent complete for an org. So these numbers really kind of go up and down depending on if a building has a new employee, they come in obviously not trained. So their percent of complete is near nothing. As they get those trainings, that takes that org score up. This is the count of observations and their misses that they've done. Vehicle incidents at that org in the past 36 months. So, you know, for this, you can see they drive a lot, over 350,000 miles without an incident. So really good. And then this is percent of vehicles involved with a third party. And then this is just their Geotab driving score based on all the stuff that comes out of Geotab. At the top, the safety score calculation, this is a link to a document that explains each one of those charts. So this button is available to everybody. So if they come in and they want to see what their score is and they don't understand how that's derived, all of those formulas are here on this, so everybody can understand how these scores come up to. Most of these other buttons only a supervisor can see, and that's because there's a lot of personal data in here. The data sheet takes you to all of the data behind each one of these incidents. So if there was an incident that comes up as a recordable, it's going to come into this, and we'll just go to it real quickly. Like I said, it's a lot. Over here. So all of the work comp incidents, the recordables, the vehicle, there's all the observations that were done. Scrolling over, and then the Geotab data here with each person's driving score on it. So that's the data behind all that. And like I said, that's only available to the supervisor. Crew leaders, everybody else cannot see that. Same thing with training data. This is an Excel document of all of the training. Then the quarterly report, so you can put in a date and look at the quarterly report. Oops. And it will bring up all of the scores for that org. So this is based on all of these charts. This is what their scores are quarterly. Once again, a lot of data there. Any questions on this or anything else for that matter? All right, Michael, we'll turn it over to you, I believe.
Okay, so Sheree, where's our, pull up that list there that was going through those questions. Okay, so I'm going to be talking a little bit about Power BI. I'm going to talk a little bit about some information we can extract. But before I go any further, though, you guys have been such great participants as far as listening to us for an hour, but we haven't heard much from you all. So I want to stop. I know we've asked, but I want to just check because I know you guys asked a lot of questions. I know you're not day-to-day users. What maybe as already said that didn't make sense? How can we help explain anything here a little bit better? Or maybe approach it a little differently if you had a different question on that topic.
Michael,
Yes, ma'am.
this is Juanita McQuay. You and I've chatted several times.
Yes, ma'am.
I think a lot of our questions are going to be, how do we retrieve reports? Like going back to the RBAs, is it possible to get a completed RBA out of there for a particular location? That sort of thing. I mean, you know, the kind of things I've asked you for.
You bet. You bet.
You know, if somebody did a certain thing to a road or a bridge or whatever. But I know that's one of the things that as paralegals that we're looking for. And I didn't know you may still be going to cover all that.
No, not that's exactly what we'd like to touch base here with. So yes, Juanita, I think one of the things that is kind of going on in my mind a little bit is access. So
Yes.
when you talk about can you give me something, I think majority of the time when you call me, you have a pretty good likelihood. I bet MMS has this, and likely we do, right? I mean, we know more than what it's unreal what we know, right? Um, it's just how do you get there? Um, unless you have the access that Sheree, Randall, myself have, y'all are not going to be able to get to it usually very easy. But as Sheree was showing, sometimes you're just trying to get close, right?
Yes.
And then kind of go from there. So
Right.
I'm really kind of caught, right? I'm CCO and I've got audits investigation. And I'll tell you, I'm having a conversation right now with audits investigation of potentially should I be involved in this anymore when you guys call and ask about something. I think there's more probably concern on the audits investigation side, maybe not so much on CCO because it may be dealing with external questions. But I'm really in this place of considering giving maybe some of their staff the same access that Sheree, Randall, and I have, and giving them a little bit of training that I don't need to be the one running those reports anymore because of we need to protect the things going on, right?
Yes,
When you
there is
ask,
protection, and there's times, you know, when I'll ask you for something and you'll provide it or somebody will provide it, that doesn't mean it necessarily gets released to another party. It's just something that we
right,
need to look
right,
at and determine that.
exactly. And I right now my comfort level, and I think Randall and Sheree agree, for CCO when it is external and somehow I'm not needing I don't want my staff or myself to get in a predicament somehow that we've been asked to run information that puts us in a place that somebody asks us a question we shouldn't be answering, right? I mean, but I don't think that's with you all with CCO. We are perfectly fine with helping run. Hey, can you tell me something about an RBA? So easy question RBAs. Guys, I have no clue if a person has filled out an RBA. It's not saved. We don't wreck it. We don't put a check mark on it. Absolutely not. They can access it. They can see it. We give them access to it until there's an incident. In the incident form today, as Randall was showing, they have to answer the question. Did you use a TMA? Did you use an RBA? If you did, attach it. We've been asked by safety management as of just a few weeks ago that they want that now to be a requirement. Today you can answer the question, yes, I had a TA, yes, I had an RBA, but you never attach it. They want that to be mandatory. So if you ask me, can you tell me for sure, did that building print out the TA, RBA? There is nothing in MMS that requires it. It's not by policy. It's not by anything we're capturing. The only place I can show if there was an incident, someone got hurt, vehicle damage, in that questionnaire, it is being asked, and it will soon be a requirement if they answer yes. So I feel like many times y'all's questions are so unique and specific that I'm always open to what can we do so you guys can answer your own questions and not get us involved. But I don't know if I can do that with everything. So you guys help us, right? Help us to know if we need to do something in a way where you feel like you don't have to call us as much.
Right, and our attorneys can determine more about that kind of information, of course, that they would like us to be able
There
to
you go.
just pull. So, yeah, we
Absolutely.
just need to work with you all on it.
Absolutely. Let me give another example. So I think, again, this will be very simple, very similar to what you all have asked Shree or myself to run. I'm going to give you an example. This came actually from an area engineer in Kansas City. And so what had happened, basically they were getting themselves, you've got to tell me what you did on this one specific route between this log point and this log point, and I need to know everything you've done in the last year. You guys don't do anything, that world, right? External coming in accusing us of stuff. Um, we've shown you all how you can go down like the results and you can look up stuff in MMS, but it was a little cumbersome. Frankly, kind of what Sheree was showing you there. You kind of end up like with maybe a full route. You don't end up real specific from this point of the road to this point of the road, or maybe just a bridge or something, right? So the first of this calendar year, Jeff Lubrain helped create a Cognos report. We have saved this over in our MMS drive. I've shown it maybe to a few of you, and we can get down to specific dates, specific orgs, specific routes, specific activities to tell you everything that was documented. Sheree wants to make sure we all understand. We document in MMS. That does not mean somebody, financial services or a supervisor, couldn't edit something in TRS. Doesn't happen much. A few times, right? But it can happen. This report is very powerful. We can run it and it provides something. And again, this is a bunch of gobbledygook, right? But it really can tell you, hey, on a specific day, here's an activity we did in a very defined section of roadway, right? Now, I don't have people's names here, but again, you're not always asking about names. You're just wanting to know, can you tell me were we ever out there doing ditch work? Can you tell me if we were ever putting up a sign, right?
Yes, that's what we're asking. And we get this
Right.
question a lot.
Yep. So we have this Cognos report is really, really powerful. You guys we can all give you access to it. It takes a little bit to run. It's not bad, but you can really, but you got to know log points, get that from TMS, the exact location, but you can end up with knowing in MMS. So you're talking about a maintenance worker in a building, a bridge maintenance worker, or one of our signal electricians. That's those 2,800 people I'm talking about. You can see exactly where they documented that they did something. Okay. So this really can get you way down the path pretty fast. Again, don't mind you guys having access to that. Where we want to go with this though is we want to change it from it being like a Cognos report. So again, the Cognos report here is writing to our MMS tables, right? So it's not SAM2, and MMS is not the source of record, right? SAM2 is the source of record, but it tells you what we've at least documented. But it's on our list at some point. We would like to change this more to like a map ability, pick on a map starting in instead of kind of entering it. But if you all want that, I'll put it here in the chat. You guys can run that Cognos report. You're not going to do any harm. What I think though, Sheree, we do have it underneath our MMS SharePoint site. I'm not sure that everyone here we've given access into that. But if you guys want that report, you're welcome to it.
I think
So
it would
that
be most
report-
helpful. Yes.
So that report is under, it's not under the MMS one, it is under financial and then maintenance and maintenance events. Is that correct, Michael? That
No, we
particular
got
report?
no, it's solely under our MMS is the only place.
Then a starts request would have to be given,
Mhm.
would have to be completed for them to have access to our MMS reports.
Yeah.
Yes.
You know what? And Sheree, I probably better check that and just make sure that Jeff didn't save it somewhere else because it could be
Yeah.
possible he did.
Yeah.
Yep,
Yeah.
I should do that. Yeah. So. Okay. I'm gonna go ahead and just take a copy of that.
But-
I'm gonna put in the
But I
chat.
do want to remind you again, as Michael mentioned, it's only, MMS is only as good as the data that's put in there and not everything that we should use for legal purposes. It's truly a starting point just to narrow down, as it's not giving names and things like that. We want to use Cognos to see, did they really record labor hours to that date, to that activity, that kind of thing. So, that's where we need to use a combination of both to identify and answer those questions you all are looking for.
Yeah. So I think that report there helps in the whole deal of I want to look at a section of roadway. What did our maintaining world do? It does not have construction in there. Okay. It doesn't have someone design out there, right? So it's that defined. Now, if you ask me the other question, sometimes you ask us, will be, well, we want to know who was assigned something. I get that a bunch. I've had some of you guys call me, and we do have a report on that. I feel like that one is something that is best still to keep kind of within you guys calling us. And the reason I say that, it's not, I can go in real easily and say, what was a person assigned today? But to kind of run, hey, I want to know for this crew for the last 6 months. It's easier if you just call us at Randall and Tommy, the only ones. It's a SQL statement. They run it straight from the database. It's not a report that we've wrote a report from. They're just running a data inquiry against our tables and comes back and says, Mike Middleton on March the 5th was assigned this piece of equipment or this activity or this role, blah, blah, blah. I feel like those requests we still need to handle probably the exact same way that we're doing today. And I'll get 1 or 2 of those a month on I need to know what a person was assigned. Often the question then will follow up with, well, I need to tie in what were they assigned to do and what did they actually do? Again, that's probably still best to come, but we start really getting down this deal of kind of protecting employees who is being looked into. And so that's where I'm kind of wondering maybe we need to do something far as to give you access. So if when it comes down back to a person, so
And
I
we
still
don't
think we're here
often
to call.
ask about specific people.
Right.
So,
Right.
And on that link that was posted in the chat,
Yeah.
I have a Cognos login and I can log in, but of course it says I'm not allowed to look at the document because of security settings.
That's exactly right. Right. So
So-
those will have to be a starts request to get into our Cognos there. So
And is that something each one of us should do? Request that, or is that something you all will handle?
I think we need you all to talk with your division.
Okay.
Who needs this, right? Because we're
Okay.
frequently asked, well, these people aren't using it at all. Why do they have access? So yeah, just kind of go through who really needs to run a report that says, I need to know on I-44 from here to here, everything you've done in the last 2 years. That's what that's telling you.
Right. Okay, we'll determine that and get back to you.
That'd be perfect. Yep.
Thank you, Michael.
Oh, you bet. What's another thought or question before we kind of go down the Power BI route? One of the thoughts I had when Sheree was talking, everything in MMS is handled by Active Directory. So when you come on at MoDOT as an employee, you are issued an Active Directory, a login, and a password. By that, that sets the ability you have access to MMS, but then we have security level settings. We have a bunch. I think we're probably close to a dozen now, maybe more than that, that like they were showing you, maybe you could document. So if you all go to MMS, none of you can document time. You know, that's it's not a security level setting you have. You only see certain things like Randall was saying on safety score or this or that. All of that is set by security level settings. We will, as a team, we go back and kind of review those almost monthly. That's something Tommy does. So that's a big part of protecting what you can and cannot see, what an employee can and cannot see, what any of us can there. So that to me is a big deal, and that is, I mean, that's all formalized through starts request, Active Directory, knowing those pieces of how that all works. Daily, we get updates from EID of what is an employee's profile. And Sheree understands that ESMT EID world the best. It can be late sometimes. We're held up because of OA. All kinds of things can go on, right? So I'm at the mercy of, but I know everything that HR knows as long as it's in the database. And we're just held up sometimes. You know, it's just what it is. But that we get an update every single morning, like at 6 a.m. Who is here today? What's their role? What's their profile? That drives a huge part behind MMS in that world. Okay. All right, I'm going to dive into Power BIs. Randall, Sheree, Don, anything else you guys can think of before I go to Power BIs?
Nope, I'm good.
I'm good too.
All right.
Yep,
So
good.
All right, let me share my screen here. So the world of Power BIs really started impacting MMS about, I'm going to say we've been into them probably about a year and a half now. This was a direction that our information systems IS really kind of wanted all of MoDOT to go. And so maybe as a department, even you all have been kind of heading in that direction some of. We've had Cognos for years, right? Cognos is just a reporting tool, but Power BI takes kind of Cognos and says, hey, but I can tell you this in a visual format. So it is behind the scenes, going in, finding data from different places, making visuals, and we felt like this was a really good place for us to start working in. So at this point now, we've built, and I say we, Randall and Tommy have built 100% of these that I'm going to show you access to. These or to me, it really helps us understand information better. So again, if you're in MMS, you click on this module, reports. It's going to open up a SharePoint page. So MMS is handled by Active Directory. Everyone can come to here. Then on this SharePoint side, Randall and Tommy manage who has access to each one of these tiles. So there's Power BI reports underneath this one that virtually everyone has access to. The safety data one is mainly all of our district safety health personnel. They have access. There's a lot of summation there of those incident reports that Randall was talking about. And then we have one for central office maintenance, our tracker measures, some things there. So when these were built, we've come a long way in the complexity of them. You could say one of our biggest issues of Power BIs is making it simple enough that anyone can understand the data that's here, right? So many of you are Cognos experts, and you know how hard it is if you didn't write the report, start understanding all the details in it. So that's really probably one of our biggest challenges. This was a Power BI we wrote last fall and implemented it at the first of the winter, talking about winter staffing. It gives you all kinds of stuff. How many people push snow, and are they trained or not trained? How many years of experience? How many trucks do we have? How many electric, you know? But this was similar to a report that HR used to do for us, and actually they still kind of doing it. So we take things, we make them visual, we try to explain where the data comes from, and it is hard to make sure that just someone who's never ever looked at something can look at this and make sense off of it. So no editing here. This is all just reading information. You'll notice usually at the top it will tell you the last time it was updated. A lot of the Power BIs have the ability to kind of drill in and look at an individual district, um, maybe something that looks like at a superintendent or a building, um, all kinds of different pieces there that fall into that. So, but we'll post these out here. We're actually going through a process right now trying to figure out, do we like our library? Because we kind of made this up on the fly over the last year and a half. So we're going back through. We don't believe that maybe some of our naming sequence was the best. The only way we even let people know there's new ones out here, we might post it on our front page or we shared a link or something. So it is kind of hard. I mean, if you're not in here all the time of what that is. So a lot of these were built from reports that we'd been running weekly, monthly, quarterly, trying to build some kind of way that just anyone can come in and see what's going on. I got customer service stuff. So we talk about MMS, but we've went down in the background and we've tied to a lot of data here. So we've went and we've said we want to see customer service. So we've went out there to the customer service detail and we've drawn things that tell you how many call reports and where were they in satisfaction and historical information. We went to some of this stuff again is MMS things. Some of this stuff is dealing with TMS data, lane miles. Um, we just worked through a process of getting access to the table, and then we start making visuals. How many lane miles, and what does that look like? We recently worked with our some HR managers trying to work through property damage, trying to see, what's been documented and what's actually been missed and what does that look like. Trying to help visualize. The most recent one was just loaded last week, and this is kind of that world where Sri talked a little bit about work plans. We can come in here and we can compare what the kind of work we planned versus how much have we done real time. We used SAM2 data to say this is total in-house cost. But again, this is kind of more the data on the backside. But that's kind of the world of Power BIs. We try and represent visual representation of information. What is something the division is frequently talking about, or other people are asking us about, an easy way to get to the information. What does that look like? On that Power BI, again, we have one for safety. This is all about those incident reports. You'll notice that we can look and say, for this calendar year, how many people have got hurt? What's the leading type of injury? This is all coming from putting those incidents in there. How many slip, trips, and falls we've had. This is now where our safety group, when they talk about their tracker measures, they use this. This is where they go get their data, their information, backing incidents, how many backing incidents we have. So it's just the visualization of that information there with that. So any questions about Power BI? again, I believe what will happen if you guys click on that, you're just going to find some of these you don't have access to. We control that. Randall and Tommy control that actually on SharePoint, who can see things, and probably that safety one's the one that's probably guarded more than any, I think. Okay. All right, Sheree, is there something else there with that Power BI?
Yes. So I think another question was, being able to print those, who has the access, which we covered, and where does the data come from, and what's contained in those BIs, Power BIs, I think you covered. One thing that I think there was a question about was snow. The snow information. I'm not sure how much. So Power BI's for fleet, snow, striping, etc. What does it tell us? And then also, what is our retention policy for the information in MMS?
Okay.
Yes.
So if I go back to the winter one, again, I'm not exactly for sure if I'm connecting the dots of from perspective of CCO, your questions about winter here, right? But this is just pure numbers. Employees, how many as of today? How many employees do we have in certain job titles? How many people are pushing, not pushing? Years of access. We talk about fleet. Again, this one comes from our faster system. You'll notice it's, right now Kansas is giving me blanks, right? So that's why, unfortunately, these are frequently we have to come in here and look at things here. What's working, what's not being sent over or not. And it looks like right now that we do have some kind of issue with our data on that one. Inventory. So again, here now we're talking about SAM2 inventory now. What do we have in SAM2 as far as inventory? So there is all kinds of data resources that, but it's trying to answer how many times did people get hurt in a winter? That's coming back from our incident reporting. Are people trained? Here we go. Now we're talking about what was Mo.U, will become Movers Learn now. So all of that fits into those pieces there of looking at the information. There really isn't. Go ahead.
I would like to add, though, that I think whenever you're looking at striping, snow, the fleet information, a lot of that information that you all are probably looking for is going to be in results. And in results, what you would do is you would run it by that activity. It's going to provide that map for you. And that is probably more of what you're looking for rather than the data that is in here. You're probably looking more for incident kind of things, accidents that have happened, lawsuits that have come through, and you're doing the discovery information. So I think that results is going to be that area. And when we look at winter operations, the one thing that you'll want to make sure you look at is use the map, because everything is rolling up to a certain job number. We roll everything up because of the magnitude of lane miles that we cover during a snowstorm. So, if we have, maybe hit, with our plow, or a car has hit us or something of that sort, you're going to want to go to that location that you're going to see on the results map. And that's going to be your starting point more than likely. So I really think that the Power BIs contained great information when we're looking at tracker, we're looking at overall data in general. But if you're really looking for specific information for discovery and things like that, we're probably going to, results is probably going to be more of what you're going to utilize along with combination of Cognos reports. Does that kind of help a little bit when it comes to the snow activity? And, and if you need a list of those activities, you go to financial services and the chart of accounts, and you probably already know that. But if there's ever a time that you're not sure about, hey, someone was performing this particular activity, where would I get started at? Send us an email to the MMS team email group, and we'll be happy to get you started on that path.
Absolutely. So I think the last one that I'm going to touch base on is going to be the retention policy. Before we go there, any other questions? Okay. So retention policy. So when we were building this again back in 2018 into 2019, it went live in 2020 multiple times. Beth Ring was IS director at that time. Amy Wilson, Tommy Cottle were our IS representatives that we worked with. We frequently, this was a question in many, many conversations. Okay, retention policy, and rightly so, right? A lot of those pieces, I had to kind of think through, kind of segmentally the data. So when we talked about daily journal, when it comes to labor hours, people's name, what they did, activity, equipment usage, material usage, MMS is not the system of record, right? It goes to SAM2, which is going to become movers. But we have some things that are unique. For instance, we know exactly the route, right? We know a log point where they picked. We know exactly where they were. SAM2 movers, they're going to know a job number. They might know a project number. So there are some pieces in there more accurate that we've got in the table that they do not. So working back through that, we worked through those discussions. Is the CCO policy, is it 5 years? Is it 7 years? Is it 10? I sent an email yesterday to Tommy. This is something for us to recircle back around. We will have MMS effective 5 years as of March of 2025. So we're stepping into some of these pieces that, okay, now this has to be in compliance, and I think it's the right time. We got to go back to them again and really discern some of those deals. Now, part of it is the questions that are asked, right? Just like you guys are asking me. Oh, but I want to know who was assigned. Oh, okay. Assigning people is all MMS. That's not somewhere else. I need to know 5 years ago this person were they assigned a motor grader. So we've talked through them all. We had those actually back in our specifications. I just believe it's good for us to go back and look at it and make sure that it matches exactly all of the criteria that is set forth there. Again, CCO, IS, what has to be on those. But we usually will find that we're not the system of record. And so we just kind of started, and then when should we be purging our data, right? Work plans, that's all MMS, right? I mean, it's all MMS on that side. Where do you intend to work? That's not, we are the system of record on that. That's not somewhere else. Budget, we viewed there, right? And we set up some stuff, but we are not the system of record. That is brass. That is SAM2 on the expenditures. We just show you, right? So, but we do some things in there that no one else does. We can distribute money within kind of what you'd say like a spreadsheet. My area, none of that's ours. We're not saving any of that, right? That's all TMS. Fleet, that's none of us. That's all faster system, with the exception of images of fleet units. And that is our side. So again, where's the retention policy as we work through that? Is it 5 years needs to be cleaned out? Results, that just grabs our data, right? So on down. But some of these new ones, particularly like ladder license leave, we're reading real time what databases are saying. We're really not keeping things in there, but we do have some new stuff, like on the career ladders. I mean, we're bringing a lot of career ladder stuff together. What is for this job title? That starting spot, and we're creating. Here is the document. This was your career ladder. You signed off on it. It all goes to HR. So we are, dabbling back into, we have this information on someone. HR was part of the whole process with there. So at the end of the day, your question that's being asked is something we have to answer on every one of these, and it's pretty unique sometimes, right? And I just want you all to know we're not taking it lightly. We take it very seriously. We need to not have data longer than we should, and make sure our policies meet those criteria. But we're in a different place today than when we started. We didn't have a lot of this. We didn't have safety management. We didn't have any of that, right? And now I got safety scores. Now we have incidents being reported in here. But again, we're not the system record even on the incidents on some of that. I mean, Riskmaster becomes, right? They're the system of record, but there's some stuff we have that does not get uploaded to Riskmaster. We just keep over in the safety management module. So I know that is a point that needs to always be asked. And please help us. The last thing we want to be doing is doing something wrong, right? We want everything to fall into the right bucket so that we're not keeping something we shouldn't. But it is definitely, we're knocking on that 5-year mark, which is in some of these things, items that we had talked about. Well, then that can start our purging process of some information. So please help me. Does that sound right? You guys are the experts in that world, not me, when it comes to retention. Does that all sound correct?
And I will add that, our retention for certain areas is also going to fall under, what is required through IS for software kind of data and that kind of thing. So some of it's, it kind of falls under several different areas when it comes to retention for certain information.
I do believe, and you guys are probably going to be looking at the same thing as we are. Movers is very powerful. It's a huge statewide system. It's going to become, the replacement of what SAM2 is. But we're all still involved and still want to see historical. And I think that, again, that Power BI route is going to be one of those pieces. So I'm not sure who, is going to write all those reports and what that looks like, but you're going to be looking at, like right now for our new Movers Learn, we live in two worlds. We live in what does Movers Learn say employees have for the last 7, 8 years? But what about those of us been here, 25, 30, 40 years, right? Connecting all that together. And HR does have a link. They got a really good link. You can go and print your transcript out. It's fantastic. We manage that same kind of stuff on our side because we attach it to everything that employees do on the maintenance side. So we're going to be living, and some of you all remember this when you went to SAM2, and you got an old database and you moved to a new one. You can't quit not knowing the stuff in the past, and so that's going to be part of our world, definitely here over the next several years. Is how do you make sure you really have everything with the new implementation of a system here?
A lot of these
All right.
people are probably much younger to where they probably don't
Mhm.
remember what SAM2, when SAM2 came over and the conversion process of it all and all
Yeah.
of those. So, it's as we constantly are converting information, just like with TMS that we find all the time. It's only as good as the data that's in there, and we do have our maintenance folks that are always letting us know if something doesn't look right, so we can make TMS more accurate for what we're bringing into MMS, because we do connect with all of those systems to bring the data in. And the other area that I wanted to mention that will be very resourceful to you is My Area module, and you'll find that to be a very helpful tool as well within MMS, and you should have access to look at all of that. So are there any questions at all that we have not answered, that maybe we need to go into a little more detail on, or anything like that? Just anything.
This is being recorded. Where are we uploading it at? Just because I know I'm going to have to go back and reference it to put some notes down for myself.
So we will put this, I believe there is under the videos, and it will also be in this Teams chat, but it will be, there is a training under My Videos that you should be able to get. But if you go back to this particular Teams, it should be recorded there as well.
Okay, thank you.
Uh-huh.
So when Terry kind of reached out, our question was basically, is there any way, how do people know anything about MMS? How do new employees, what do they know is there? How do we capture that? We're great with this kind of setting. Don't mind this. We don't mind meeting with you all when is a good time, yearly, quarterly, whatever that is. I know that, as Sheree showed you, you can get to our videos. Again, some of those videos are going to make sense. Other ones, again, probably 95% of that world is all about a user of MMS who's documenting. So it might be hard to always make that connection with what the perspective that you're looking at. But let us know. Maybe you have a suggestion. Hey, for us, could you help us if you did this? That would be a good kind of basic understanding or whatever that might be. Let us know. We are actually, Shree and Randall, Tommy and I have been talking a lot about our own like maintenance employees as they start out. Is there kind of like these 4 or 5 videos you should watch initially, But if there's a part with your division that would be helpful, let us know. Initially we built a lot of like step-by-step help sheets, and they are monotonous and horrible, and we quit them. So few people do that. Now, those who like those, you really like them, but they are the exception. We found far more value out of making the videos, the short videos to watch how you do something. But that doesn't mean that that's kind of the main way that some people learn. Some people really work best by reading something on that. But we really kind of, once we implemented, we quit doing the step-by-step help sheets. They just were too time consuming, and some of those individual small steps changed too much that the videos are just much. We gained a whole lot more with our users than that. So if you guys have some ideas, let us know how we can serve the central office there with your division in the best way. And hopefully today has been helpful. I think that's all we have. Maybe we can give you guys a little bit of time back.
Well, don't hesitate to ever reach out. So on our help page, so if you go to MMS and you click on help, you'll see, let me go to that real quick. You will see that we have our phone number, so you can always reach us on the MMS Help Desk. If we do not answer, just leave a message. Or another way is to email us at the MMS team email group. We also do a lot of chat, so you can always send us a chat and we can get back with you, as we do have a lot of different meetings, so we may not be available. And if it's TRS cutoff, usually the phone is ringing off the hook and it might be hard to get through. So again, reach out to us. If you have new employees coming on board and you think that this would be beneficial just to cover some basics, send them our way. We'll be happy to meet with them. We can do a Teams conference call, or we can also meet in person, whatever works best for you all. So with that, we'll go ahead and let you go, and we'll get that recording on out there for you. And we'll also send this off for everyone that has attended. So if you had someone else join you on your Teams call, make sure you put that in the chat and we'll get you credit for attending this training today. Okay, thank you all very much.